Welcome back to the deep dive. You ready to dive into something kind of different today?
Absolutely.
All right. Today we're looking at operational transparency. Now, I know that might sound maybe not the most exciting thing at first glance,
Right.
but trust me, this concept has some seriously interesting implications for how we experience, well, just about everything.
Yeah, it really does. It's about pulling back the curtain, right? Letting customers see how things actually work.
And it's not just about customers, is it? It's about giving employees a better view of how their work is actually making a difference.
Exactly, creating that connection. And you know what? The research is fascinating. Like, it can impact everything from how satisfied customers are to how motivated employees feel. There's even evidence it can improve efficiency.
Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves, let's break it down. What exactly is operational transparency? I mean, we're throwing the term around, but
Yeah, good point. At its core, it's about making those work processes, those behind-the-scenes things, visible to customers and letting employees actually see the customers they serve.
so it's not just about the what, it's about the how.
Exactly. And this applies to so many different fields, from restaurants to delivery services, even healthcare.
Okay, now you're making me think of Krispy Kreme, watching those donuts go by on the conveyor belt.
Oh, that's a classic example. They're not just selling you a donut, they're letting you experience the whole process. And research suggests that actually changes how we value what we're getting.
It's like, seeing the effort makes it taste better.
There's a psychology to it. It might trigger this sense of control, which can lead to trust, satisfaction.
Okay, but it's not just Krispy Kreme, right? There's got to be some serious research backing this up.
Absolutely. This idea comes from fields like service operations, consumer behavior, organizational behavior. There's a study, Buell and others, back in 2017.
Wait, is that the dining hall study?
Yes. It showed that making the food prep visible, customer-reported quality went up 22.2%. Throughput times went down 19.2%. Just by adding that transparency.
Wow, that's huge. But it wasn't just about feeling good, right? It actually led to fewer complaints.
Exactly. It impacts the bottom line. And there's this great anecdote from one of the chefs. It really captures the human side of this.
Oh, I remember that. Something like, when you can see them, you want to do a better job.
Yes. And that speaks to the power of that connection. Motivates us to try harder.
Okay, so we're seeing the impact on customers, the impact on employees. What are some other real-world examples of this in action?
Well, we've got Krispy Kreme, but let's look at Cainiao Network. You familiar with them?
Cainiao Network. Rings a bell. Refresh my memory.
They're the logistics arm of Alibaba, and they've implemented operational transparency on a massive scale.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does that work with deliveries? Do they, let you watch your package getting sorted?
Not exactly, but it's all about the tracking. There's a study, Robert Bray, 2018, analyzed over 4.6 million deliveries they handled.
Oh, that's a lot of data.
Yeah.
What did they find?
Customer satisfaction was actually higher when those tracking updates clustered towards the end of the delivery window.
Wait, really? I think consistent updates would be better.
It's counterintuitive, right? But this taps into something called the peak end rule.
Peak end rule.
Basically, we judge experiences based on the most intense moment and the final moments, more than the average. So a smooth finish makes a big difference.
It's not about the journey, it's about the destination.
Exactly. And this has huge implications for how we design any kind of service experience. You want a strong finish.
Okay, this is making sense. But before we get too far, let's go back to the dining hall for a second. We talked about the customer side, but what about the chefs themselves? Didn't that study find something interesting there too?
It did, and it highlights another reason why operational transparency works. Remember that quote from the chef?
About doing a better job when you can see the customers.
Right. That points to something called the labor illusion.
I've heard that term, but I'm not sure I fully get it. Break it down for me. What's the labor illusion?
It's the idea that when we see the effort involved, we perceive something as more valuable, even if the actual quality is the same. So seeing the chefs work hard probably made people think the food was better.
It's like the visible effort adds value, even if it doesn't change the food itself.
Exactly. And this applies to so many services, from cooking to deliveries, even complex things like healthcare or consulting.
This is fascinating. But how did seeing the customers actually affect the chefs?
They reported higher job satisfaction, felt more appreciated for their work.
So it's not just about the customer, it's about making the work experience better for the employee too.
Exactly. Operational transparency can create this reciprocal relationship. Connection, appreciation, shared purpose.
This is blowing my mind. We've gone from donuts to deliveries to the psychology of perception. Where do we go from here? What else is in this mountain of research?
Oh, we've only just scratched the surface. We could talk about the potential downsides, the ethical considerations, and then there's the future of operational transparency. How is it going to evolve in this increasingly tech-driven world?
Okay, I'm hooked. Let's keep going. But first, a quick reminder to our listeners. If you're enjoying this deep dive, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss part 2. We've got plenty more to explore. Now, back to the conversation.
Okay, so we've seen how powerful operational transparency can be, but like any tool, you got to use it right. Are there any downsides? Could too much transparency actually be a bad thing?
It's a great question. It's not just about, showing everything. Sometimes revealing too much can actually hurt.
So it's not just about throwing open the doors and letting everyone see everything.
Right. Imagine a process that's really complex, maybe even a little messy. Showing every little detail might just confuse people, make them anxious instead of building trust.
Yeah, like sometimes you don't want to see how the sausage gets made, right? Exactly. And think about employees. If they feel like they're constantly being watched, judged, it can kill morale, stifle creativity. People need space to experiment, make mistakes without that pressure.
It's a balancing act then. Enough to build trust, but not too much to overwhelm.
Exactly. It depends on the context, the specific process, what customers and employees expect.
You mentioned ethics earlier. What are some ethical things businesses need to be careful about with operational transparency?
Data privacy is huge. If you're sharing data as part of transparency, you got to make sure it's done respectfully, legally.
Right. You can't just reveal sensitive stuff about people without their permission.
Exactly. And you got to be careful about bias. If the information isn't complete, it creates a misleading impression. Transparency should be about accuracy, not manipulation.
It's not just what you reveal, it's how you reveal it and what the impact could be. It's a lot to think about. But it seems like when done right, the benefits are worth it.
Absolutely. And we've got research to back that up. Let's think about the dining hall study again. Remember those iPads they used?
Yeah, those virtual windows.
Yeah.
Clever way to control the transparency without disrupting everything.
Exactly. And just that visual connection, it significantly increased customer satisfaction with the food.
It's like seeing the effort. Makes it taste better, even if the food itself is the same.
Goes back to that labor illusion. Visible effort equals more value. But it wasn't just the customers. Remember, the chefs were happier too.
Right. More appreciated, felt more connected to their work.
Exactly. And that's a key takeaway here. Operational transparency creates this two-way street. It's not just about the customer, it's about a better experience for the employee too.
Makes sense. If you feel appreciated, like your work matters, you're going to try harder, take pride in what you do, and that makes the customer happier. It's a win-win.
Exactly. And that can have ripple effects throughout the whole organization. Employee retention, customer loyalty.
It's like a chain reaction of good stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm still curious about that Cainiao study. Why were people more satisfied when the updates were clustered at the end? Doesn't that mean the package was just sitting around?
It seems weird, right? But remember the peak end rule. We judge based on the most intense moments and the final moments. So a smooth finish, even after some delays, leaves a good impression.
Ah, so it's like a great ending to a concert can make the whole thing seem better, even if there were some off-key moments earlier.
Exactly. And think about other services where you have to wait. The ending can really make or break the whole experience.
This is fascinating. You really got to manage those expectations, make sure the final moments are positive.
Absolutely. It highlights how important it is to be strategic about operational transparency, not just revealing everything, but curating the experience so it enhances satisfaction.
I love that phrase, curating the experience. That's perfect.
And to do that well, you need to really understand your customers, their expectations, the psychology of how they perceive value.
You know, as we talk, I keep thinking about that chef's quote. When you can see them, you want to do a better job.
Yeah.
It's so simple, but it really gets to the heart of operational transparency.
It does. It reminds us that this is about a human desire for connection, for meaning. When we see the impact, when we feel appreciated, it changes how we work.
It's about shared purpose, a work environment where everyone feels valued.
And that's powerful no matter what industry you're in. But as we go forward, we got to remember those downsides, the ethical stuff. It's about using transparency responsibly.
Not just revealing, but revealing in a way that benefits everyone.
Exactly. And that takes understanding people, planning carefully, being ethical. So where do you see operational transparency going in the future?
Ooh, good question. What's on the horizon?
I think we're just getting started. As technology keeps evolving, we'll see even more ways to use transparency to make things better for customers and employees.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Imagine AI that personalizes transparency. Based on your preferences, you get just the right amount of information tailored to you.
So instead of too much info, you get just what you need to feel confident.
Exactly. And think about virtual reality, augmented reality. Imagine experiencing the inner workings of a company, like a virtual tour, seeing how things are made, even interacting with employees.
Whoa, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Like a field trip inside a company, but you never leave home.
Exactly. And for employees, think about transparency for collaboration, innovation, internal platforms to share information, track progress, celebrate successes, all open and accessible.
So it's a more open, collaborative work environment. Everyone feels connected to the mission.
Precisely. And as businesses do this, it could impact whole industries. More informed, more engaged, a more empowered society.
That's a powerful vision. Transparency leading to positive change, not just for businesses, but for everyone.
It's exciting. And I think it's possible, but remember, technology is just a tool. The real power is in the human connections, the
Yeah.
values.
Well said. So as we wrap up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away? What's the core of operational transparency?
It's about trust, connection, creating value for everyone, moving from secrecy to openness, and unlocking incredible experiences.
Beautifully put. And exploring those connections, uncovering hidden knowledge, that's what the deep dive is all about. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
So we've really gone deep on operational transparency, haven't we? From defining it to the benefits to the psychology, even peeking into the future a bit.
It's been a fascinating journey for sure. We've seen how this idea, it can really change things for both customers and employees.
And we talked about, the downsides, the ethics of it all. It's not as simple as just revealing everything.
Right, it has to be done thoughtfully, strategically, ethically.
It's about creating real value for everyone.
Exactly. As we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about, a question really.
Oh, I love a good question. Lay it on me.
Think about your own experiences. When you're the customer, what are some companies that do operational transparency well? What makes those experiences stand out? That's a good one to ponder. For me, it's when a company is just like genuinely open, not hiding anything, not just trying to make a sale. It's about feeling informed, like I understand not just what they do, but why and how.
That's it. And that kind of understanding, it builds trust, loyalty. It's more than just a transaction, it's a connection.
It's like they let you in behind the curtain, you see the heart of the company.
Exactly. And that authenticity, it's powerful, especially these days when we're all overwhelmed with information.
It's about cutting through all that noise, making a real connection.
That's what operational transparency is all about at its core. Human connection, trust, shared value.
This has been amazing. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of this concept, how it can change the way businesses work.
It's been great exploring it with you.
And with you, our listener. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. We hope this episode has made you curious, inspired you to see operational transparency in your own life.
It's all around us, shaping our experiences in ways we might not even realize.
So keep your eyes open, keep asking questions, keep diving deep into the world around you. Until next time, happy exploring.